Could I welcome George Mackenzie?
Can
everybody see George?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yep.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
So once again, welcome everybody. And George, can I hand the proceedings over to yourself?
Yes, of course. Thanks, Richard. Thanks for your help in setting this up. And welcome to everybody that's come on and is here. And as I was saying to Jerry there, some of you might have heard that you're almost welcome. And there's no set rules in tonight. It's just a case of coming on, and we're sort of running it like a cafe type thing, that you just come in and out as you require or as you want to. So there's no rules in that you have to be here for any length of time or whatever. So we're just happy to connect with people in the dowsing fraternity, and thought it was a good idea from the point of view of the BSD that it's something that we could use to basically help each other in with sharing our experiences of dowsing and that sort of thing. So that's really why we set it up, with a view for just doing that. It's a go-to place that we can offer each other support and maybe a bit of guidance. Myself, I know there's one or two of you on tonight with particular experience in particular different aspects, and this is a place where we can discuss all sorts of dowsing issues. So not just about my forte, which is in healing or remote work, etc., but with with people about earth energies or water dowsing. So feel free to bring up any topic, and it's really an open floor. It's I'm far from being an expert in anything, but I have experience in doing work within the healing dowsing, for a number of years. So that's where I can maybe offer some support. But as far as the floor goes, it's open to whatever topic you want to discuss. We had two questions come up via the BSD, the website, with people having registered an interest in tonight, and they were both, or one was from Glenn and the other one was from Gillian, and I wondered if either of those two people are on tonight at the moment. Do we have a Glenn or Gillian on? No?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. Well, then in that case, we'll just proceed. And if there's anything anybody would like to ask, or anybody's got a burning question or issue that could kick us off on tonight's cafe, then please feel free. Put your hand up or indicate in some way that you have a burning desire, and let's get started.
Do you want to take the question from Glyn?
Yes. Regarding regarding how she's having difficulty getting dowsing rods to work for her, but she's strong with a pendulum.
Yes, that's it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's a good question, and something probably we've all experienced at some point in time. I always, with people when teaching dowsing or showing people dowsing or the way I dowse, as regards to using rod work or pendulums, when I first started with the rods, I had a little bit of a struggle with getting them to work for me as well.
George, can I just say, could you read the question out so people know what we're talking about, basically?
Oh, sorry, Richard. Sorry, I don't have the exact question in front of me.
Shall I read it out? I've got it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, it's from Glyn. Hi, George. I can't get dowsing rods.
Tea's on the table.
I can't get dowsing rods to connect with me, and this is stopping me progressing. Does this mean that I am not a potential dowser? Pendulum responds reasonably strongly, though. I look forward to your advice. Kind regards, Glyn.
Oh, homemade sausage roll.
Could I ask people to mute and show a hand if they if I mute everybody, and show a hand if you need to ask a question. I think that's probably best. So there we go.
So yeah, as regards the initial question being.
Yeah, George, can you just unmute yourself? Sorry.
How's that?
That's better, yeah.
Sorry, Richard. Thank you. Yeah. So as regards Glyn and her ability to dowse, well, I'm a great believer. Everybody's got the ability to dowse. It's just a case of practice on occasion. So, personally speaking, I practiced for a number of months. When I first came across dowsing, practiced for a number of months with dowsing rods, and initially, I'm sure a lot of people have gone through the same experience, whereby the rods have a mind of their own and sort of do what they want to do, or but eventually they become very much a visual representation of ourselves and what we're looking at and what we're looking for. And I think one of the things about it is that it's being clear in your mind about what it is we're looking for. I think that's probably the biggest thing with the using dowsing rods. So it's trying to be really clear and really focused on the one item that we're looking for. And as I say, it's just a case of practice. And what I would say is that one of the big things for me in my dowsing experience was I was very aware of not opening the door to doubt and going with the first response, going with the first movement of the rod. We have an inbuilt thing as humans that we'll continually doubt ourselves, so doubt, even the effects of what we're dowsing on or dowsing or how we're dowsing. So this idea that, we want to check something or validate it or keep checking it, it opens the door to that aspect of ourselves, that doubting aspect. And of course, the minute we start to doubt our ability, then, the reflection of that is in the response that we start to get. So I would encourage people to be clear in their mind about what they're looking for, focused in their mind on what they're looking for, and not to open the door to doubt, and go with the first response that you receive. Does that make sense?
Excuse me, George, may I ask, what is he trying to douse over? Is he over a bowl of water expecting it to work? Or is he just out on a piece of land expecting it to work?
Well,
that's a good question.
We don't know, John, because he's not here, he's not in the room with us. We could ask him that, unfortunately. Although he registered, but he hasn't he hasn't joined us.
May I butt in, please?
Yes, certainly.
Just to say, if a person in question isn't getting the rods moving at all, it might be because they've got their arms against their sides. And the dowsing signal, as we know, can come in through any part of your body. It depends where the energy is that you're trying to douse for. But it's got to get through your body, down your arms and into the tool. And if you've got your arm close to your side, it won't get there. This is beginner dowsers very often do that. You have to quite often go round and just sort of make sure they've got a bit of space between their body and their arms so that the signal can get from their feet or their head or wherever down their arm and into the tool, and then they'll get the dowsing reaction.
Okay.
That's a good point you make. Richard, could I ask you, I can only see myself on the screen at the moment.
Okay.
So I'm not being able to see anybody. So could I,
right,
is there any way that you could?
Yeah, I'll remove the spotlight. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, we'll
Thank
go with
you.
that.
Yeah.
Can I ask the question, has the person who's dowsing, and we won't know for sure, but have they programmed the rods to give them a positive or a negative response?
That we don't know, Jerry.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the first thing they need to do.
So tell us a little bit about how you do that.
Well, whenever I was being taught how to do divining using the rods, the very first thing I was taught was to program the rods. In other words, close the rods over each other, and that was a positive response. And you brought them out, and then you said, show me a positive response. And if the rods closed, then you connected with the rods straight away. You might have to do it several times. And then for a negative response, you brought the rods way out to the side, and you said, this is my negative response. You brought the rods into neutral in front of you, and you said, show me a negative response. And if the rods go out, and again, you might have to do it several times, but if the rods go out for you to indicate a negative response, you've programmed your rods so that you can ask for a positive or a negative response. And the only other thing that I found in learning was that you had to be very simple in the question that you asked the rods to answer. In other words, it must be a simple positive or negative answer to the question. In other words, initially, is my name Jerry? And the rod's closed. You bring the rods, bring them back to neutral, and you say, do I live in County Down? And the rods will go out and negative because I live in Wicklow now. Just as simple as that. I'd be interested in hearing if anyone else has what way they get the response from the rods or the pendulum. I was taught to do exactly the same thing with the pendulum, to swing the pendulum in the vertical and say, this is my positive response. And then you ask the same as you did for the rods, show me a positive response. You bring it back to neutral, and then you do it across in the horizontal. And that's my negative response. At this point in time, I have no difficulty getting positive and negative responses, but I have found at different times that if I ask a question that cannot be answered with a simple yes or no,
Goes round in a circle.
it is, well, that in neutral, I mean, I'm at the stage now where I can say to the pendulum go to neutral, and it will just swing around and around and around until you ask the question, and then it answers the question.
Interesting.
How does anyone else do it?
Can I make a suggestion? It's Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, George.
Hi, Chris.
I've had quite a few people who have struggled a bit with both rods and pendulums. And I've found that with rods, they found it easier if they're actually walking around. Rather than sitting still, if there's in a dynamic situation, they find it easier to get the rods to move. Doesn't really matter how it moves to start with. You can, as Jerry says, you can program your rods, but if your rods are not moving at all, it's probably worth trying a dynamic situation. And the same goes for a pendulum. If you just have your pendulum motionless, it's quite difficult to get it moving. But if you start it off with a neutral position, backwards and forwards, say, then you've got something to work with, and it's much easier to get a response. So that will be my suggestion to anybody who is not getting a response.
And a good suggestion it is too. Thanks, Chris.
Can I make a comment there, George?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I think the thing is, I learned long ago, first thing before you do any dowsing is to get into the dowsing frame of mind. Ground yourself, plant your feet down on the ground, take 3 deep, slow breaths, calm yourself down. Because if your mind's racing and running around in circles, you're not going to be going anywhere. So the first thing is to get in that dowsing frame of mind. And as 2 or 3 of the other people have said, first thing I always do is calibrate the instrument. The dowsing rod, the pendulums are instruments. So I just say, show me my neutral, show me my yes, show me my no. And with the rods, also say, show me found. So at least I know that the things are working. And they got. And I have to admit, the first time I picked up a set of dowsing rods, they were going every which way. It took me a little while to calm them down, but I actually got to the state where I could calm them down, and I'm really quite comfortable. And I'm one of these people who came into dowsing by picking up here, a bit there, reading something else, and ending up being able to do something about this and knowing nothing about anything else. And I thought, well, really, I need to go back to square one with some of this stuff. So as advertised in the BSD journal, a gentleman called Paul Craddock does a home dowsing course. So I set him and did that. So I thought, well, I'd fill in the gaps that I'd really done anything about. And that even took me back and started off in my basic way of doing things, because, as Paul said in his course, when you're dowsing, think of your question and ask your question, then just concentrate on, put it all to the back of the mind and just concentrate on what you're doing. Forget about what's going on elsewhere, and you'll end up getting a much better result. And you'll get a more accurate result, a quicker result. So there are things around there. But I think the whole thing is, it is all about state of mind and mental preparation to start with, and in a mental state, or when you're actually using the rods or the pendulum.
Yep. Very, very true. Thank you. Very, very true. What does that feel like when you described very eloquently there that dowsing state of mind?
Yeah.
What does that feel like to you then, or how would you describe that?
Well, what Paul was trying to say is we actually have brainwave states, which is beta when we're all at the moment rushing around, but we need to get into an alpha state where our mind slows down. Get into a theta state where our mind is really slowed down. And this is what all of this stuff's about. And when you're in that dowsing frame of mind, I find that I'm just feeling a little bit, somewhat more relaxed, physically relaxed, mentally relaxed. All that's racing on around me is stepping back. I'm stepping away from it. So I'm actually able to concentrate on what I'm doing. And won't douse unless I feel that I'm in control. Well, you're never in control of your thoughts, but you know what I mean. One's just a little bit better off, and one is just being focused, if you like. One is absolutely focused. Another person who has actually got some good advice on that is Elizabeth Brown in her Dowsing for the 21st Century. Dowsing now, isn't it? She goes into a whole load of stuff in there, again, about getting into this state of mind before you douse. That way, you know, one is properly connected with what is, and rods are now connected and so on. So you've got this circular connection between whatever it is you're trying to do and the energies and the information that's coming into you. Because all you're trying to do with getting in this dowsing frame of mind is to get rid of any blocks, energy blocks, psychological blocks, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Totally get that. One of the other things I was thinking about when I was introduced to that question about dowsing rods, one of the things that occurred to me might be quite useful for people is actually to go through a visualization of imagining yourself doing these things, you know, holding the rods and then looking for and finding water, then looking for and finding whatever it is, you know, so you're sort of, in a way, you're sort of creating the expectation, or you're creating that idea, that link between you being able to do that and actually, you know, thinking you want to do it and being able to actually do it. So that's another aspect that I'm sure that might be of value to some people, and you know, in that. But all you say is really relevant about the idea of focus.
Yes.
And it's about how I suppose each individual, each one of us gets to that place that we're able to give that focus.
Yeah, as Paul said, you know, when you're dowsing, just visualize, as you said, George, you know, visualize what it is. So if you're actually looking for a water pipe, just visualize a water pipe. That's all you need to concentrate on. Concentrate on your rods, concentrate and visualize a dowsing rod, a water pipe. You know, if you're looking for a gold vein, concentrate, you know, whatever it is you're looking for. If it's your keys, concentrate on them, you know. So as Paul said, it's very much a case of, you know, you calm yourself down and then you just visualize what it is you want.
Yeah.
And, you know, so again, it's that connection. So you've got that mental picture of, you know, you're creating that energy. Water. Yeah.
George, along that theme then, how can you apply what you've just been discussing about focusing and visualization on dowsing for health? Because I think I was hoping we'd come on to that a little bit as well. So.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Dowsing for health or healing, would you say, was that?
Yes,
so,
healing, yeah.
So speaking about healing, that might be slightly different to dowsing for health.
I meant healing, sorry, yeah.
George, sorry, George, would this be a good time? Because I know Janet's been holding up your biometer for a few times.
Yes, I know.
Would this be a good time to introduce that?
Ah, right, okay, I can do, yes. Thanks, Richard.
Maybe that'll lead on to what Alison is asking about.
Okay, I'm limited a little bit to what I can see on the screen at my end, because I can only see one individual who's talking or who I'm talking with. So I don't, if anybody's making any gestures, I'm not seeing them. So I apologize for that, you know, initially. But as regards the biometer, this is a piece of wonderful equipment that I came across in a dowsing book, and my experience was in healing, hands-off healing. Working with the energy fields of both humans and people and animals. So I work with horses as well. And I started to apply principles around, well, the technique, the hands-off healing was something called bioenergy healing. And I started to apply principles around my understanding of bioenergy healing to dowsing, and started to integrate the two. And I came up with a little system of working, which this biometer really helps with. And for those that have downloaded the biometer, it's a very simple tool. It's a piece of paper, a very simple tool to use, but can be very effective from the point of view of how I use it is it tells me, it shows me when we've done enough. And as a healer working remotely, we can often, well, for me, part of my challenge was in leaving the scenario, knowing I had done enough for that, even, for that particular person, or for that particular time. So that was a challenge for me, always wondering, could I do more? Have I done enough? And the thing with the biometer helps me do that is I started to look at things in understanding vibration and trying to relate health to vibrational aspects of the individuals I was working with. And these could be, I describe these people as, or people or animals as targets. So they become my target in some way, but in a nice way. I don't mean that in a bad way. But the target has a vibrational aspect. And what you find is that when I use the meter and we're measuring the energy, the vibration of our target, there's two main readings that I look for. One is the vibration, which is if you could cut the person open, stick them under a microscope and see the cells moving, you would use, that's what I'm using as that idea of vibration. So it's the individual vibrational aspect of the physical body, but also from that vibration, from the energy we absorb from the earth, from the sun, the stars, etc., from our food, which we make from our food, we then transform that and pass it back out to the world around us. So we emit a resonance of energy. So there's two main qualities people give with this aspect. One's vibration and one's resonance. Now, when I started using the biometer, I recognized that for people to be well, for horses to be well, for animals to be well, they have to have a good, strong connection to the Earth's natural vibration. And the Earth's natural vibration lies in the normal region of our graph or our biometer. So it lies between just over 5,500 to just under 8,500 of gigahertz. This measures gigahertz. Now, I wasn't the brightest tool in the box at school, so don't get caught up with the idea of gigahertz. We're using this as a scale. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter really what we're applying it to. It's the scale that we're interested in. But the normal range of the Earth's natural vibration lies between the nice coloured green aspect and where it says normal. So a person has to have a horse has to have a strong connection to that vibration. The resonance, which is what we emit from our bodies, and this can go far from us. It can go, several feet away from us. Our bioenergy field carries a resonance, carries a frequency, and it changes the further out from the body you go. So what we want to do is have a resonance as close to the body as possible of love, the resonance of love. And when I measured love on the scale to begin with, before ever starting this, it came into me at the top end of the high section. So it was just over 11,000 on the chart. So we have two vibrations. We have the strong connection. We have two measurements with the strong connection to the to the earth to feed the energy, and we have a resonance which we're giving back out, which if we can sort of regulate that to love, well, love conquers all, and love, love's a good frequency, and with love we heal. So those two for me were vital in using this method. So the question then is, what is the vibration of? And so for instance, if you know the horse's name or the person's name, or what is the vibration of show me the vibration of something. And the pendulum, you'll use your pendulum in the normal way. You'll send it in the search mode, and it'll choose where it it will choose the vibration of what we're looking for. And with that, the same applies with the resonance. Show me the resonance. So those two bits of information give us the foundation on which to start to create, or help somebody to create, better health, i.e. healing. And all we need to simply do then from that point is to release the energy that is causing the low vibration, and release the energy which is causing the discordance in the resonance. So that can be done at the same time. So generally speaking, most people, not all the time though, but most people who are ill or injured come in with a deficient or a low vibration. Healing's a natural thing. So all we're doing is we're creating the condition for healing to occur. We're not actually healing using this method. We're just creating that condition. We're taking things out of the equation to let the natural process of healing occur. And healing will occur if a person or a horse has a good, strong connection to the earth's vibration and is emitting love. If they're in that feeling of love, healing will naturally occur. So all we need to do potentially what we need to do, if we take that as a blueprint, all we need to do as remote dowsers is to understand where a person is vibrationally, understand the resonance, and then alter these in order to align them to the earth's natural vibration and to the vibration of love that they're emitting. And if we can help somebody to maintain and retain that vibration, then natural healing occurs.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Okay, so the indicator says high, and you aim to change that. How do you change it?
Well, we can start to direct the pendulum, so we can take charge of the pendulum.
Right.
And if I can show you, what's your name? Sorry.
Dorothy.
Dorothy. Sorry. Hi, Dorothy. Dorothy, when I started working in this way, which was about 10 years ago, maybe about 8 years ago, and I played around with it for a while but what I recognized was I started to get responses from my targets. And so there's a number of things that we can ask the pendulum to do. And one of them is to release the energy which has caused the deficiency or low energy reading in, say Michael, for instance. Say we're working with somebody called Michael. So we can alter the vibrational aspect by releasing what's causing the low energy. And when I ask for a release of energy, my pendulum will just swing in what is my negative response.
Right.
So that's all it's doing. I've asked for something, I'll then step back from it, and the pendulum then is the visual representation of something occurring.
Right.
and we just let that go and release and release and release. And what I found happening was when we released it, when we let that method go and do what it needed to do, then the pendulum will automatically start to still above the normal range.
Right, okay.
So we've checked in on somebody's vibration. We have determined it's in the deficiency or low aspect. We then ask for a release of the energy which is causing that deficiency. The release will go in a particular direction. I'm not saying it may not be the same direction. It may not be the same response for everybody, but the release goes on until it gets to a point where there's nothing else to release, and therefore the vibrational aspect is restored within the person to reconnect them to the Earth's natural vibration.
Right. What was the other one you said? Vibrational, and what was the other one?
The resonance.
Resonance, right, okay.
Yeah.
I'm writing this down.
Say that again, sorry?
I'm writing this down.
All right. So the resonance is when we take in energy from all the things around us, from people around us. We take in energy from the sun. We transform energy through our food, through the process of digestion. When we have that energy, we then emit out to the world through our thoughts, our feelings, the things that we say, the things that we do. So we're emitting energy back out the way. So that's both. I deem both as being important in the whole remote process, the vibration and the resonance.
Right. Okay.
And what we find is that, so the vibration, if we can help somebody to maintain the vibration of normal, and we help the resonance retain at the level of love, as determined by myself when I started working in this way, if we hold somebody or help somebody to retain these, then natural healing occurs.
And is this something one can do themselves?
Yes, absolutely.
Right, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So you check, before working, I would check in on your own or you would check in. There's a system to go through, of course, and I don't have time to go through it just now, obviously, but there's a system that I've got in place that part of that is checking your own vibration and checking that you're aligned in that way, and that you would then carry out the process. It's part of, as we discussed earlier, getting ready for the process, you know.
George,
that's very good.
Thank you.
It's Alison here. I'm just wondering, I would really appreciate, would you consider doing like a half day or a couple of hour online course? I'd be really keen to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do that from time to time, Alison. So, I do. It's not. I don't do that through the BSD though, so it's probably not.
All right. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fine. I understand.
Yeah. It's a particular.
Don't do it yet.
It's a particular way I learned. Not learned. I developed in working in this way. Sure. It made sense to me how things were naturally occurring for me. And I tried to put it into a little bit of a protocol, and you know, if I can do it, anybody can do it, and it has a real effect on our targets. But as I say, there's a process to go through.
Right.
And for those that are involved in healing, you know, there's loads of different ways out there of generating healing. And all sorts of different things people are doing nowadays, and all have effects. Every one of them is probably about the person with the problem or the illness or whatever the horse. It comes down to letting go of energies, releasing energy. and because underneath that they have to release in order to restore,
Yeah.
in order to get the foundation right for healing to occur. You've got to release the energy that's in the way of that.
Yeah, get that. Yeah.
So everything revolves around release of energy rather than giving energy.
Yeah.
Rather, because there's energy there with their connection. As an established better connection, they'll have plenty of access to their own energy, but it's about helping them to establish a better connection.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, of course. Hi.
George, in relation to people achieving healing, can you comment on releasing things like disempowering beliefs and how that's hindered the healing for people?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I mean, disempowerment is I suppose what is for everybody that's ill. Is at some stage disempowered. They have become disempowered. It's true for every person probably that's ill. Illness. I have a very simple view of health and healing, etc., etc. And illness is all about losing energy. We've lost energy at some point. So if we concentrate on the energy and raise the energy, or or take away from the individual what's preventing that, then the natural, as our energy increases, our symptoms go down. So the important thing is just to keep focused on the energetics. So it doesn't matter that somebody has a disempowering thought. We all have them. But what we can do is we can keep helping them to keep establishing a better, stronger vibration. And with that, the natural disempowering thoughts will equate to being deficient or low in energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the longer we can help somebody to maintain this idea of a good, strong connection to to Earth, then the thought will naturally change as well. It has to, because as the vibration changes, our thoughts, our experience changes.
Yeah.
So I would say that rather than getting caught up in the idea of somebody having disempowering thoughts, I'd move beyond that and just keep re-establishing the strong vibration. And what we'd find is through time that the disempowering thoughts will diminish.
Right. Thank you.
Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, but it really is. It's a very simple technique that I use, and I just keep coming back to it all the time because it's very effective. And if you're working with for instance, if any of you have got the ability, or not the ability, but anybody that's has got the opportunity of working with horses or dogs. And Jerry, I know that, I don't know if you're still on, but I know you've got a cat with a broken leg tonight. How apt. But test each of the legs, the vibrational aspect of each of the legs. And so when you're working with a horse that's lame, check in, make a small diagram of the horse. Start with the front left, right, front right, and back left. Take a vibrational reading of each of these legs. And you'll find that there'll be one, maybe two, that vibrationally don't match the normal range. And if you simply release the energy, hold that thought, hold that vision, release the energy of that particular leg, and bring it up into alignment with the normal vibration, and then balance the other four legs, you'll find the horse makes good a recovery.
George, just wondering, can you apply that to chakras as well? Would you take it chakra by chakra, or is this a far more holistic point?
Well, you can do, of course. It's Alison, isn't it?
It is. Sorry, George. Yeah,
Alison, hi. Hi again, Alison. Yes, of course you can do. You can measure anything, Alison. Everything's vibration. Everything in the universe is vibration. So we can get I go deep into things for people. Over the last 8 years, I've created a report that I do on people's individual vibrational aspects, and I go deep into the individual in understanding what's going on. So I've gone down to the level of looking at the brain in nine or 10 different areas of the brain, right, which all relate to different aspects of ourselves. And these all have a vibration that they emit and they give up, they have. So if we can douse into the aspect of the brain, learn about the vibrational aspect of any particular compartment of the brain, then we can relate the brain to what's going on in the body.
Yeah. And do each of those individual compartments in the brain have their own unique, like what's normal for them then, or do they still head to the normal range on your meter? Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's a good question you ask. And there's several different areas in the brain that I look to understand. One of them is say for instance the brain stem. Yeah. The brain stem is vital in certain things within the body. It is the control center for certain aspects. The brain stem, for me, when I started working in this way, the brain stem came in on the very top line of the high section. So it just over the 11,000, Alison.
Right.
Just on the small line between the high and the excess. So that's where the brain stem came in. However, the cerebellum, which again has some other, it coordinates other different things within the body to the stem. It has a different vibration at its norm. So, but what it does do, it's very good, because from the point of view of we can start to understand why something has occurred in the body. So there's an event, there's different events affect different parts of the body. So for instance, or different parts of the brain. So an event happening external, our perception of that then sets off, depending on what that is, sets off a predetermined response within our brain, within the body. So there's this knock-on effect. So in effect, the body almost becomes like a picture of that person's life. It's almost like it's a response to what they've experienced in life.
Yeah.
And that's how I see illness being created.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when we start to understand that we can actually track the response in the body to certain stimuli through the vibrational aspects displayed in the brain. And it gives us an insight into why something's occurring and why has this occurred for somebody. And that's the beauty of working in this way, because when we start to understand the reality of what's happening within the body, that's ever so empowering for the individual.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we start to understand as the person who's maybe recovering, we start to understand why something has occurred. Not only that, as the healer or as the remote dowser, holding that information becomes really important.
Yeah.
Because that's all we need to do. We need somebody to be aware what's actually occurred for the effective change to make good.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense, particularly about the different brain areas, because you've got your your core brainstem, which is basically your reptilian brain, isn't it? And that core, like, it supports fight or flight. It impacts on all your adrenal glands, and that relates to stress and relationship to stress, etc. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it took me years to sort of figure this out, if you like, in a dowsing sense, and putting together a load of different information. I've been reading, doing, and involved as a client in healing since I was 8 years of age, or 14 years of age. But I started with symptoms when I was 8 years of age. It's been my life in looking at healing, and so what it's allowed me to do, it's allowed me to pull sort of different things together a little bit, create a report, a system, a way that we as dowsers can understand what's going on for the individual. We can then communicate that back to the individual, which is empowering for them to learn about, something hasn't just happened to them. The reason it's happening is this or whatever. That's an empowering way to look at your health, and to really understand that, and to be able to relate it personally to somebody. From there, with that empowerment, and then with the subsequent change in vibration, then anything's possible. So anything can be possible with that knowledge, or with that ability. You know what I mean? With that ability to understand it. And so I see that as I see it as an important role. Not everybody does see healing in that way. I get that, but I see it as an important role in the work I've been doing. That is that when we become aware of something, then that has a natural transference almost onto something else.
Yeah.
Could I just say, George? We're going down a track. I think it seems that we could talk all night on this, and might lend itself, if you do a little workshop that we could invite people back to at some time.
It'd be brilliant.
Yeah. We'll work on that. Because time's getting on. Could we just have a look at the last question?
Yes, of course, Richard. Sorry about that.
I get across, but I think we are running out of time, and I know that the subject is fascinating. Can I read the question out? And then
yes, of course.
See, people may even actually know the answers. It's about ley lines. How do you differentiate between dowsing ley lines and water? Do you use intention, or are there certain aspects which you can use to check, or something else may appear, example spirals? I always find it a challenge and like to double check. Any guidance greatly appreciated. Ley lines. Do we call them ley lines or lays? There's another debate, I think.
Lays, yeah.
We call them energy lines, don't we?
Energy lines.
Yeah.
Ley lines are something that line up on the map. They're not really considered much in the world of energy. But if I'm dowsing water, I look for sound rather than for light. And light, I find, are energy lines, but if it's water, then it's a sound given off. So if she tries to find a sound disturbance, she might do better.
Okay.
Interesting.
I've got a suggestion on this as well. I'm very interested in what David has said about the sound. I'll have to give that a go. How I do it personally, I've noticed that a water signal, when you cross a water line, it's quick. The reaction's quick. You're either on it or you're off it. But when you're going onto a serpent line or an earth energy, it takes 2 or 3 paces and the rods come together quite slowly. Because the earth energies aren't a 2-dimensional thing. They're a 3-dimensional coil, like a cable going down the road, taking everybody's phone line. That's what they're like. And so some people respond to some of the bands before others. So for me, this is just how I do it. Other people do it differently. It takes 2 or 3 paces then to get into the full width of the earth energy band. And that's one of the ways that I know that I'm on an earth energy, not on a water. The second way that I know when I'm on a water line is, having found it go quickly, I pause there, because there are other things that go quickly, like if you cross an electrical cable, you can be on that quickly and then you're off it. But with the water line, there's the water, as it goes through the ground, generates a circular signal. And if you walk across it, you get your reaction. What I do there, I get onto the water, get my cross for the water, and I always ask, are you water? Yes, cross. I drop one rod. I put one rod down to my side, and I just use a single rod at this point. And then what I do is I walk across the water signal, and I tell the rod, stay on the water. I go across the signal, and then immediately, when I hit the opposite side of the circle, it bounces me back. It bounces me right back across the signal. And so when I get to the other side, again, the rod turns around and bounces. So what I get is I get a very tight S signal on water, because of the way that the rod is bouncing backwards and forwards. And that, for me, is a special signal that goes along with water dowsing. You don't get that on the earth energies. There are loads of other things you can do on the earth energy lines, but not that. Can't do that. And that's one of the ways that I know that I'm on water and I'm not on an earth energy.
Interesting.
Man.
And do you get any signal in your body on that, or is it just purely through the rods?
Are you muted, Sue? Can you unmute yourself, Sue Pine? There you go.
Right, there we go. I'm sorry, George.
Oh, Sue, sorry. I was going to say, it's very interesting what you say, but are you picking that signal up in your body, in the body? Are you feeling that in the body?
I'm a physical dowser, as Richard see me, he knows. I'm a physical dowser, yes. I pick the signal up in my body, and from wherever the signal is coming in, and sometimes signals can come in through your head if you're walking under a line, as we have around here. It comes through my body from whichever part it's coming in, down through my body, out through my arms, and into the rod or the pendulum, whichever I'm working from.
And do you feel that in your body though?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I say I'm a physical dowser, so I get moved. The more I tune into the signals, the more I get a physical reaction.
Right, interesting. Thank you. Brilliant.
Any more comments about the energy lines? Yeah, Sue.
Yeah. So Susan's raised an interesting point there. But first of all, I'll start with when I'm dowsing with rods. Obviously, you need. It works if you're looking for something, not if you're going out saying, "Oh, I wonder what's going to happen today." So what you do is this works for me at least. You visualize the water in the ground below. So I have a set image, kind of like a mind photo that I go to when I'm working here, when the area that I know here, for example, then I might have a slightly different one in a different place, but I'm always visualizing looking for the water. But if you're dowsing deviceless, then you're, how can I say, you're accessing impressions in different parts of your body that you have become used to. Different people work in different ways, but when I'm looking for earth energies, I feel it across my cheek. When I'm looking for water, I feel a sort of water energy racing through me. So maybe the person have they considered trying deviceless? Or have they tried using visual images, mind images? Just to put it out there. Is the question, oh, they're not here. Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. That's it, really.
okay, thank you.
It's Jerry here again. I'm of the opinion that as water flows, especially in the ground, it is tumbling along, and we have all been talking about energies and that sort of thing. The energy comes almost as an electrical energy. I think all energies are electrical in some sense. And I see it as the molecules of water bouncing off each other, bouncing off the rocks and all the rest of it. And that's what sends the energy up to the surface. And I find it very easy to walk into an area of flowing water and also of still water in caverns. I don't know if you have that much in England, but we have it in some parts of Ireland, especially in County Meath, where there's a lot of limestone. And you have caverns, and in the Burren as well, in the west of Ireland. And I find that walking through at right angles, you can find the width of it by just, again, opening and closing of the rods. When you start to go into it, your rods close over, and as you are going out, the rods open out. I thought I would tell you a little story about down in the west of Ireland in County Galway. I was there a couple of years ago, and one of the people that had invited us down was wanting to know if there had been, where there was an old church, was it really an old church or was it another building? He thought it may have been a mill in going back into the Middle Ages. But anyways, it turned out that you know about water flowing and crossing over each other in the crossover of the arms of the church. And the main stream runs right down the middle of the church. And then the crossover comes through almost at where the altar was, where the priest would have stood in ancient, in all times, even up to the present. And he holds his arms up like this to bless the people with the energy that's coming from the stream. And somebody asked me, how did I know this? And I said, well, it was very simple. You know, the priest stands up and he holds his hands up. And we've been told that he stands on this particular point, which is the crossover. And the person was a bit cynical about it all. So I said, look, it's as simple as this. And I stood on the spot, held the hands up, and I got the most unmerciful belt of energy that I have ever got in my life. And a lot of people thought something had happened to me, but, you know, within a couple of minutes, the energy had dissipated, and that was that. But it is true, there's a tremendous amount of energy, especially this stream that was running. It was running at about 250 feet below the floor of this very, very old church. And it was at least 7 feet wide, and it was a vigorous flow in it, you know. And I wasn't the only one that divined that. There was a couple of other diviners there that day that divined the width of it and the flow on it and all the rest of it. So just there is tremendous energy in water flowing underground. That's my contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome.
Anybody else like to make some comments about the energy lines? No? Okay. Well, we're coming to nearly 8:10 now. We've been going over an hour, and that's longer than I thought we would be, actually, because we only had 2 questions were submitted. But we managed to get through quite a lot, actually. And I hope we've all learned something. I've certainly learned something.
I have, yes.
Yes.
That's great.
Very, very good presentation.
Very good.
Congratulations, George. I hope you do it again.
Yes, do it again.
I agree. Yeah.
We've opened this this cafe up for members only at the moment. We may extend it to non-members, say once a quarter, something like that, or even run this maybe once a month as it is. But we'll see how it goes. But
yeah. That's fabulous.
Yeah, really good.
Thanks.
I'm so glad everybody turned up.
Thank you.
Really nice to see you all.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, George. Thank you, George.
Thank you,
Thank you very
George.
much, George.
Absolutely fab. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Richard.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.